Hi everyone, I'm back with a new video. In today's video, we are going to see yet another hosting platform that will assist us in hosting Django applications. We are going to be working with Render, which will help us deploy our Django application. Where it offers a free hosting service, it has also some other packages that you can choose from. But for today, we are going to be seeing how to make use of these free hosting service. All right, so this is a particular website that we are going to deploy our application on. So the first thing, once you get to this page, just click on create an account or register, or if you have one, log in to that particular account. Then click on dashboard. It will take you to this dashboard. All right, so here we have quite a number of services, and in this case we are going to be making use of web services. So in this video we want to focus on deploying a Django application, working with static files, and also connecting to PostgreSQL database. All right, so let's click on either new web service or new in this section, then go with web service. So before we proceed, just know that Render uses the GitHub repository. It will only deploy web applications available on your GitHub repository. So ensure that you have already pushed your application to your GitHub repository, so that you are now able to deploy it on the Render platform. Right, so we are going to work with this first option, then click next. Then here you need to connect your GitHub account, so click either GitHub or GitLab, so whichever that you have. Right, so let's click on connect and GitHub. All right, so we're already in, so we just need to scroll down. All right, so let me just select the repository that I want to use. So I want to share this particular repository, Django online 3 days training. Let me have it here. All right, let me select that. Once I do that, let me click on save. Right, so I've been working with this previously, so let me just continue with this. So let me connect, click connect there. So let me give it a name. Let me talk of Django online. That's enough for me. Then, so for the region, I'll leave it as default. For the branch, that is the master branch. So for the root, our application is on the root folder. So we do not need to specify anything there. Then runtime should be Python 3. Then for the build command, we confirm that we have the requirements.txt. We actually have it here, right? Then we also need to have this. So let me show you what you need to do here. So we are told to have gun icon, your application.wsgi, right? So back to our application, we need to identify the folder with the wsgi.py file. Right, so let me check. Should be this, should be online tutorial. So what we need to do, let's come back here. So we have that, then WSGI. Right, so for your case, ensure to have this folder named accordingly. Once we do that, we confirm that you want to use the free hosting. This is it. Then click on create web service. All right, so let's give it time to build our application. In case of any errors, we are going to rectify that. Right, seems our build failed. Let me see. So for some reasons, we are told that the Django version that we have included, no matching distribution found for this particular version. So we can select our version, So the best practice is for you to make the changes on your offline repository, then push to make the updates on this particular repository. But in my case, I'm just going to make my changes online on my GitHub account, then I'll sync the changes later. Alright, so let me choose a version lower than the current 4.2.4. So let me have something like 3.0.0. Right, let me commit the changes, then back here. What I need to do, I need to click on that, deploy latest commit, then give it time. Let's see if it is going to work. Alright, another error. We found another error. We're told that Piro requires a version lower than this. So just to make it easier for us, I'm going to edit this. Instead of having this particular version, let me just remove it. And also, this is not part of the dependencies that are supposed to be installed. So let me use delete that, commit changes, commit that. Right. So back to our render dashboard. I click on that drop down, deploy latest commit. Right. Let's give it time. Alright. So we are told that the build was successful. Deploying is already taking place. So let's give it some more time. Alright, something else is missing. We need to add gun icon on as one of the dependencies in our requirements.txt. So back to this file, edit, then we have gun commit changes, also confirm that. Back to our dashboard. Alright, let's give it time, but we're going to stop it. Right, so let me just come here, click on this drop down, then again deploy latest commit and give it time. So the purpose of doing this step by step is to show you how to debug the errors. Otherwise, I would just have included all the dependencies here with the right versions, with just everything in place. But since you might be having different versions of these dependencies, just see how to debug them one by one. Right, so let's give it time. Alright, so so far so good. We need to do something else. We need to add Django online.lender.com in the list of allowed hosts. Alright, so what we need to do, back here we have this online tutorial, then the settings.py file, then click on edit. What we need to do, we need to either enter what we have here, that is Django online render.com, or we have a star, that asterisk, which allowed all hosts to connect to our application. So in my case, I'm just going to have it as on, then commit changes, right, then back here, manual deploy latest commit, and then give it some more time. Right. Alright, and from what I'm seeing on this log display, we see that our application has been deployed. Let me see if there is any error that has been returned. Your service is live. Alright, let me see. There seems to be an exception, but let me just access our domain name. So we were asked to give it a name, whereby we gave it Django Online. So a subdomain was generated automatically for this particular application. So here it is. Just click on that. Right, an internal server error occurred. Let me see. There is an error here. Alright, this error that we are facing could probably be caused by the versions of our Django dependencies. So let's go back to the requirements.txt file and edit the versions. So in this case, if you remember, this is one of the packages that we didn't install independently. It's a dependency that was either installed by Django, Pillow. So in case your requirements.txt has this requirement, please remove it. Then for Django, let's also just remove the version and leave it as it is. Right. So once we do that, let's commit the changes. Then let's go back and try to redeploy. Let's give it time. Alright, so far so good. You see that our service is live. So let's navigate and check. And there we go. So most of these errors that happen in deployment are being triggered by the versions of the dependencies that we use. So it's a call for everyone to pay close attention to these versions. Well, it's not the best idea to leave the versions as they are. In this case, on the render platform, you might be required to remove the versions and redeploy to check if that resolves the version issue. Right. So the next thing, we see that our website is now live, but we have lost the styling. So when it comes to this gun icon that we have used in this deployment, we need to use white noise to take care of our static files. So it's the only way that we will be able to have the styles working for our website. So let's proceed and add white noise to our requirements.txt file. Right, so let's visit the white noise Django. Let's visit the documentation. So what we need to do, we need to ensure that we add it into the requirements.txt. Once we do that, we need to save. The next thing, let's proceed and see. We need to add this middleware, white noise middleware. That should be online tutorial, then in the settings.py. Right, so let's check. Let's edit the file. Then under middleware, let's add that. Then back to our documentation, we also need to add this line. Alright, so let us just add it just around this place, or rather we have the static file definition down here. We can just have it there. Alright, once we do that, let's commit the changes. Then we need to redeploy our application. Right, once we do that, let's give it some more time to complete. Alright, I told that your service is live. Let's check. Right. Alright, and there we go. We have been able to fix the static files issue. As you can see, we are able to view our website. Alright, so the next thing will be to configure our application to use PostgreSQL. Currently, we are using the default database, which is SQLite 3. Right, so for us to make use of PostgreSQL, we need to do something. So the first thing, let us first come here, click on new. Then we have PostgreSQL database. Okay, let me close that. new PostgreSQL. Right, so let's give it a unique name. Django Online training. Right, the database, the name of the database. So we can just leave it as it is to be generated for us, the user. We can also leave it as it is to be generated for us. Then let's go for the region as default. For this as default, the Datadog API key as it is. Then we want to use the free tier. Then let's proceed and create the database. All right, so as the database is being created, we also need to adjust the configuration of our settings.py file, those that defines the database. So first of all, we also need to edit this file, the requirements.txt. What we need to add is that we need to add a dependency that will take care of that. That is a psycho pg2 binary. All right, once we do that, we also need dj database url. Right, once we have that, commit the changes. The next thing that we need to do, we need to go back to our settings.py file. This is it. We need to edit. Then let's check if our database has been created. All right, so our database has been created and we have all that. Right, so what we need to first capture the external URL. Once we capture the external URL, let's navigate back to our settings.py file. Then just next to our database settings, we have right. So let me paste what I have here. So from what we have obtained, this happens to be the user, the database user. Then this happens to be the password. Then we also have the link to our DB. That is it. Right, so what we need to do in this stage, we need to define the default database. This is how to do it. Databases default is equals to, we need to have dj database url dot parse. Then what we have, we need to add that. All right, so we also need to import dj database url. Right, once we do that, we need to commit the changes. Right, once we commit the changes, let's come back here and redeploy our application. Then let's give it time to complete. All right, so we see that our the build has been successful and we are told that our service is live. But if you cross-check on the logs we see that there is an error. So you check, we have home underscore projects dot status from home, or that there could be an error on that, right? So if you realize, render does not give us shell access where we can do migrations. So we have to ensure that we do migrations offline, so that such tables can exist. So what we need to do, we need to clone this project. We need to clone this project to our local machine. Once we do that, then we do the migration offline, which will resolve this error. Remember, we fetched the external database URL. This was on purpose. It was so that we can first connect our project locally, do the migration, then we can switch to the internal database URL, right? So let us clone this repository. Let's clone this repository. Git clone. Have that. So whatever project that we have online, this is what we have downloaded on our local machine. So let's have cd, then Django online. Right, that's what we have. So there's our project. So we can simply have python 3 manage.py make migrate. All right. So let me create a virtual environment. This is how I activate it. All right. So you can install pip install, not pip install and requirement.txt. All right. Then I can proceed and do the migration. Python manage.py migrate. So it's going to take maybe some few seconds. So in the meantime, we can be adjusting the URL to instead of using the external URL, let's update to the internal URL for the purpose of the online of this website. As we already established that the error that we currently have is that the migrations were not yet done. Now that we did clone this project, the migration is already happening, and it's happening on the online database. So let us adjust this URL. The URL that we want to adjust, this is it. Let me click on edit. Once we do that, so the fact that we are using the internal database URL, you may realize that we don't have a URL here. All that we have is the username, the password, and the name of the database. All right. So once we do that, let's commit. All right. Then let us be as the, let me see. All right. The migration has been completed. So let's redeploy our application. All right, your service is live. So let's confirm. And also note that we had some projects here which have now disappeared since we have changed from SQLite 3 to PostgreSQL. All right, so let's try to access the admin dashboard. So let me try to use that password 1234. So remember, we just did migration, but we have not yet created a super user. So what we need to do, let's create a super user from the terminal that is on my local machine. Remember, this project has already been configured with the Postgres database that we created online. So the super user that we are going to create here will be mapped to the Postgres database online. So this is the same way you are supposed to do your operations. Connect your project locally, and whatever commands that you run here will apply to the database online. Those particularly the commands that pertains any changes to the database. So what we have manage.py create super user. Alright, so let me use that. Email blank, password 1234, password again, same, confirm. Alright, once we have that, we can just click on login, and there we go. So the user that we created on the local terminal has been created on the online database. So we can try and just create a very simple project here. Test project. Let me select a file. I'm not sure which file to select. Let me just select that of a laptop. Let me see the website. Just copy and paste some few characters here. Status. Let me click on level 1. It's completed. Save. So if I come reload my database, my web page, so I have this project. Right, so that is it. So we have successfully deployed our Django application on the render platform. We have configured the static files. We have also configured the project to use Postgres database, and that is the end of this video. Thank you for watching. Thank you for paying attention up to this end. In case you face any challenge or you have any question, please add it into the comment section. If you found this video helpful, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also give this video a thumbs up and share it with your loved ones. Thank you and goodbye.